Cool, welcome everyone, or the three of us, to the Cluster API provider AWS office hours on Monday, the 9th of June 2025. Just a reminder, we abide by the CNCF Code of Conduct, which basically boils down to be nice to each other. If you'd like to speak during this session, we normally say use the raise hands feature. Okay, more people have joined, so we probably should still use the raise hands feature, and then you'll be called on to speak. Please add any agenda items to the agenda. If you would like to discuss something, I will also share the link into the chat window. I don't see anyone new, but normally we would pause to say hello or give people a chance to say hello and say hello back if we so choose. But there's no one new, so we can just jump straight in then. So if you could also add your name to the list of attendees as well. Just having a quick glance there, and it's only just me and Andreas. So PSAs, so we released v2.8.3 in the last 2 weeks. Main thing here is it has a fix for constant reconciliation loop caused by something in the add-ons code. So if you're using EKS, definitely worth upgrading to 2.8.3, just so you don't get that constant loop. That is the only PSA. So action items from last week. Let me just go have a look. We skipped. Go back a couple of them, and we didn't have any action items there. So there's none of those. So on to the agenda items then. So Nolan, I guess because Damiano is not here, you have the first item.
Yeah, so last week there was some panics introduced as we were moving to SDK v2. Thank you, Andreas, for jumping on there and fixing those. Um, Something that Damiano expressed was um, we have been we haven't been exactly diligent about manually running the ETEs against each PR, and doing so uh, would would have caught these before PR just merged. There was discussion here on Slack that I think I can summarize by saying it's a trade-off between costs and accuracy. Um, I think we don't want to run the entire ETE suite on every PR because that will take forever. And that also um, ties into the second point, which is right now ETE we can only run one of the ETEs at a time. Um, so only one ETE can run, only one EKS ETE can run at a time. So if we didn't change that and we ran ETEs on every PR, that would introduce an extreme bottleneck on getting signal. Um, so I would propose we run some sort of maybe base happy path ETEs rather than the entire suite for each PR, and also work with the SIG infrastructure to talk about how many concurrent ETEs can we get. Because I would like it to be as high as we can, but I think realistically, it's probably not going to be unbounded.
And then just be clear here for the reporting as well. When we're talking about here, this we can only have one test infra job. We're not talking about running the actual E2Es in parallel via Ginkgo. We're talking
Yes.
about, yeah, okay.
Yes, we're talking about the prow job that kicks it off. Within a given prow job, Ginkgo could be parallelized. That's within our control.
The usual ones we run would be E2E and E2E EKS, right? Kind of what I call the basics, but I don't know how long they take, some hours, not sure.
Yeah.
So maybe we can extract the smoke tests out of those, some for managed, some for unmanaged. That's what you mean, right?
Yeah, yeah, and
I would totally agree and do that. If it's a separate command, like dash smoke to include everything that's a smoke test, whether it's EKS or something else, just one command maybe.
I don't know if we have them Ginkgo labeled, because I know, I think, I can't remember if it's us or upstream Cappy that has like a subset of fast and slow E2Es. Um, so we would want to run the faster smoke test ones, based probably based on Ginkgo tags, if we could.
Yeah, we do have tags. We don't necessarily use them in that way, do we? We could do. Like if we go to that functional tests. So most have something like this, but we could add another tag or actual proper tags as you're talking about, aren't you? As well. So not just using Ginkgo focus, but the actual tags. Yeah, that would that would work. I know in on the EKS side, we did have uh, we do have flags that can also control running of tests as well. So we did have some options here to run a shorter test on the EKS side, but a shorter test on the EKS side is still pretty long, if I'm honest, because we do this um, where we have one main test and it just does a whole bunch of different operations as you step through it. So we'd have to probably split that up somehow, do some refactoring. But um, yeah, I think personally, I think it's a good idea if we could run a small subset. Um, I guess my in that thread, my my initial concern was that we run and do that without fixing the underlying issues first, which we're doing. So yeah, so I guess Nolan, do we need to create a bunch of we need to create some issues for this so we can split the work up, or
Yeah, I would say that's a good idea. Like I think, and I personally think this can totally be an iterative improvement. Like, I don't think we should try to get both EKS and self-managed tests going in the same, in the same loop, because that just may take longer. So if we can split out issues for stabilizing the tests like you're doing, Richard, and then um, start working on kind of teasing out the minimal cases that we want for both, um, I think that would help a lot.
sounds good. I guess I have another question on this is, and this is like I'm guilty of as well, is we do have the periodics running every night with the alerts coming out. Um, and I guess, is there something that we can do when we get alerted that forces us to fix the periodic end-to-end tests and instead of ignoring the noise, I guess. Yeah,
From from my side, I know I need to set up a route to make sure that goes into my work inbox, because it usually hits a not work email account that I
yeah.
don't see until after my working hours. Um, we did have a short period of time earlier this year where they were consistently turning green, and that was much easier to find the failures then. Um, so from my perspective, um, getting the ETEs green more consistently will make those reports much more useful. And therefore, when we get these, we can go take a look. Because I suspect, I don't know exactly where you saw it, and Andreas, but did you see the failure on the panic on the periodics, or on another pull request that you were testing?
Either it was my pull request. Yeah, I think it was my PR actually. And I'm regularly testing manually to split cluster and tear it down. And that also brings up some issues usually. But I think this one was on a PR.
Cool. Any more on that point here? We move on. Um, Nolan, did we cover this second one as well, or did there's more to say on that one?
I don't know that there's a whole lot more to say. I think we just need to go to SIG Infra and ask how many we can get. Um, I think Damiano had, I think it's in the same thread that's linked for the above bullet, but he was engaging, I believe, a maintainer from Cops who is working on similar types of jobs. So we can kind of look at what Cops is doing, see if we can get Sig and Frojo agreed to have a similar count to what Cops has. Um, 'Cause, yeah, I think this also would speed up getting PRs merged because we can have more of these running in parallel so that we're not testing one at a time.
Yeah. I think on that thread, we also discussed about making sure that the end-to-end tests didn't run if it was just a docs change.
Yeah, and I could have swore we had that in our prow config, but maybe we don't.
Yeah, maybe we could just take an action just to check.
Yeah, because it's a fairly simple regex that filters based on the changed files in the git commit.
Yeah. I'll spell no.
And similarly, I don't know if for our docs check, we could probably flip that around too to say don't run the full test suite if it's only docs that changed, just build docs.
Yeah.
So that's I think the rate of docs PRs has dramatically slowed down. Docs only PRs, but that's something that would give us more wiggle room for um, running more often.
Yeah. Sounds reasonable. Cool. No, then you got the next one as well on the SDK V2 migration.
Yeah, just checking in on progress on this. I've got it looks like three, maybe four of these um, issues are merged, which is great. Several more are in flight. I'm going to try to make a point to get at least one review a day on these, um, so that we can get these in. Since it's June and the cutoff date, I think I put in here somewhere. I should probably put it up in the description of the file or the initial description. Um, but yeah, these are split up by package, and uh, kind of been distributing this amongst the community. Special thank you to SUSE folks who've shown up to contribute to here.
I've got a question on this. So I guess after we've done all of these things here, do we need to add a task to remove the package altogether and just see if there's any stragglers that
Yeah,
we've...
it's worth capturing as an item. Just say these are all closed out. Okay, go delete the entry from GoMod and see what breaks.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let me just can do that afterwards. But cool.
I had also created a project view for this in GitHub. Um, on the right hand side, there's
Ah, oh yeah.
Kappa. Yeah, I think that got made against the orgs, which kind of isn't great. Um, but I made this and have not been uh, tracking it. So I will try to go through here today and make this more accurately reflect reality.
Cool. Yeah, I guess yeah, a lot of these are all ready to be picked up, aren't they? Or in progress, pretty much all of them except for
Yep.
that one. Yeah. Don't do that now. We can just quickly do that now, can't we? drag them across.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we do have someone assigned to every single one, so that's awesome.
Yeah, and a lot of them, like you say, there's PRs up already, aren't there?
Yeah. Yeah. And this was I don't know how formal we want to be with this particular board, but this was more of a way. It's a bigger project that we have a lot of people working on, so it was a way to visualize that.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good idea. Brilliant. Um, hmm. So next item is mine. So I guess over the weekend, looking at the E2Es, realized that one of the reasons one specific ETE was failing was because the Canonical have changed the descriptions that they use for their AMIs. So when we've got some logic that basically looks up which AMI to use for the Bastion if we do not specify one within the AWS cluster. And it used basically it was looking for the LTS tag, but that's no longer there. They no longer use that. So I made a simple change to fix that. I guess what it made me realize is that's fine for fixing it now, but we're being reliant specifically on descriptions and things like that that can change over time, and having that embedded within Kappa made me realize that we should come up with a better way to find the default, or at least be able to override that expression on via a flag or something. So we don't actually have to do any release of Kappa. So if anyone has any suggestions in that area, I will create an issue for it. Go for it, Nolan.
I just wanted to ask, is the format of that string like a regex? Because I saw there's some question marks in there, so are that those
Yeah,
like yeah,
yeah,
those. Oh yeah, it is a regex. Okay.
yeah, it is, yeah, yeah, it is, yeah, yeah. No idea why they removed the LTS either, but just one of those things. Um, yeah, so we could pass that in and have that as a default on the flag or something, maybe as a short term. Um, but yeah, if anyone has suggestions, I will create an issue or if they want to work on it, that'd be good. Um, so next item is mine as well. So if you ever run the end-to-end tests and you receive in the message specifically this, the security token included in the request is invalid. Can you ping me I guess either the link to the job or just the account ID that is within the job logs? 'Cause I'm keeping a note of all the AWS accounts that we get these on, and so far it's all on the same AWS account. So I suspect the token, sorry, the AWS credentials that Boss is handing out to us is slightly different for that AWS account. So I guess when we've got a few more examples that we can point to, go talk with the test infra um, people and see if we can get that account investigated. Um, Me again. Okay, I guess this is just a question really. It's based on all of the discussions about end-to-end tests and things like that. Do we need a community call, like learning session on writing end-to-end tests, running them locally, debugging them locally, and things like that? More of questions. So yeah, no, go for it.
I would say emphatically yes. I'm recalling the uh, case, I don't know, beginning of this year, late last year, where Andreas, Daniel, and I were all on a call trying to figure out why these tests were failing, and it turned out they were not getting the right disk size or something like that. They're
Yeah,
running out of disk space. So having admittedly, I don't have a ton of knowledge on running these ETEs locally in order to kind of grab that stuff live and inspect it. versus looking at logs.
Andreas, go for it.
Yeah, I would find it great to kind of have an easy intro for anyone, not just those who work with it. I kind of tend to not run the end-to-end tests locally because, first of all, I'm usually scared that something is not cleaned up, which should be kind of a command you can run at best. Right? And if something fails, you should always have the option to clean it up anyway. Actually, while I was on parental leave, there was some leftover in my company's account. Not something bad, but if it happens, it's not something you want. And typically, I think the clusters are suffixed with random hashes or something, or with a random string. So every time you run it, something might get left behind. And second, I don't think it was super easy to run them. I mean, you need some AWS setup. Um, maybe we can make documentation a little easier, just really to bring down the threshold when people start using that as a very simple, hey, this is what I do last before I push my PR branch, right? I would love to do that actually, just run the tests, kind of trust them more, or if they do leave something behind, be able to clean it up myself.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. The cleanup is an interesting one. We could have a utility that does that, can we, based on the tags?
Yeah. So our company, I mean, we also have a way to create management clusters and bring them down, and that's simply a script. Looks for the VPC and some other resources, not all related to Kappa. Well, that's one I used last time. You know, we could have something like that, or th something that uses the Go code we already have.
Yeah,
Go code that does the cleanup. Because yeah, otherwise I'm not very familiar with janitor and all that stuff. I think that's part of test infra, right? Not ours.
yeah,
So I wouldn't know how to use that, or if I could use it manually somehow. So that
that's
would just be great to know, a little one-page guide.
cool. Yeah, sounds good. Nolan?
Yeah, I'm in full support of having something that cleans these up, even if it's uh, ideally automatically part of the ETEs, so they clean up, even no matter what at the end. But if we had to have a separate script to invoke, that would be fine. I know for myself, the AWS accounts that I use for work things, we have some rules that automatically go and delete resources after 24 hours. So this doesn't affect me as much. That's annoying in its own right, but having this for folks that don't have those things set up is definitely going to be helpful.
Yeah, cool. It's cool. Um, yeah, we can send around a poll, maybe find a suitable date, time, and then do one session, and then maybe you can take another action item. Uh, so the cleanup after DT, it should normally do it. The problem is, especially when you sort of live debugging, you realize the error, and then you just click stop, and then the test stops run in, and the cleanup isn't done. Instead of waiting right, for the timeouts, which could be like another 30, 45 minutes. So yeah, and manual. Cool. So Nolan, you have the last item on the agenda.
Yeah, so there's been some movement over here on the dedicated hosts feature where we the idea is requesting dedicated specific hosts from AWS in order to run the account. I'm sorry, run the cluster that Kappa manages on. Um, the use case here is that we want to support um, software licensing where the vendor is going by hardware metrics, so core count, things like that, not the VMs. Um, I think this is going to be a phased approach where um, we're looking at trying to say that first the user will have to manually provision these and say, here's my set of dedicated hosts that can run pods and or run VMs then pods, and defining some rules on like what happens if a node goes away or things like that. And then the next step will be um, kicking off a bootstrap from something like Kind or something and having it create the dedicated hosts that then get fed into provisioning. So I know Marco is working on some other things. Excuse me. So he may not get to this quickly, but this is still something we're interested in.
Cool. Yeah, I guess he can then at that point decide what to do with the existing work that's already been done or whether to start fresh.
Yeah, yeah, and kind of related to that, um, like we were just discussing, this would require some extra cleanup code in Boscos because it needs to be able to catch any leaked resources, including dedicated hosts, which it does not currently handle.
That's true. It was, didn't Hulu put a PR up for that? Dedicated hosts. So there is something there's a start for something for that. So let me just put that in here for. Okay, brilliant. So we've come to the end of the agenda. Are there any last minute topics anyone would like to discuss? Going once, going twice. Cool. Well, thanks everyone for attending, and we'll see you all online or in 2 weeks' time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye bye.